The only problem we did have, Celyn, was that Andria's a Swansea fan and I'm a big Cardiff fan. So it sometimes got a bit heated.
Yes.
So here we are. We have Pembrokeshire Murders, It's a Sin, Gangs of London, Saint Maud, and Quiz as our sort of selection of drama coming out of Wales. You know, It's a Sin. Did you know what effect or impact a show like this was going to have on you at all? Because both of you were sort of breakout roles and a real sort of breakout show. And how was that? Did you know that from the page, or was that sort of through the process, or are you still pinching yourselves? Andria?
Yeah, obviously it's been manic actually ever since It's a Sin came out. To be honest with you, Celyn, I didn't envisage it going to be such a massive impact for myself, because I didn't think of myself as being one of the main characters. So when it was broadcast, I wasn't on social media or anything like that. And it was the cast members like Callum and the saying, have you seen what's going on Twitter? And when I saw it, I was overwhelmed. It was surreal, really, isn't it?
And Callum, how's it been for you? How's life during and beyond It's a Sin for you?
Just to be in a Russell T Davies show is a blessing in itself. So I feel like I just, the reaction to the show since has just been a bonus, really, and it's just been amazing. It really has. I don't really know what to say. Like, it's just been so cool and so amazing. Yeah.
Were you nervous to begin with, sort of joining Russell T Davies is such a kind of titan of kind of British drama.
It wasn't not just the fact that we were going into one of Russell's shows. We were going into a show that, he spent 20 years creating. Its conception was 20 years ago. So, for him, and it was a show that was so close to his heart and a subject matter that is so close to, thousands and thousands of people's hearts and families' hearts. So we really had to do it justice. So I just felt nervous because I wanted to do the families proud that were affected by the AIDS pandemic, because it was brutal. It was such a horrific, it is a horrific disease still to this day, and it still affects people now. And I just wanted to do them kind of proud and represent them in the right way, and it was just a lot of research and working with Andria on kind of portraying our characters. We just loved it, didn't we, Anne? We had such a good time.
We did. Yeah, I think the good thing as well is that we had such a good relationship off screen as well. So we had a few laughs as well, because when you're doing those sad scenes, it's so difficult because you're so absorbed in what's going on. And as Callum says, you want to do them justice and be real. But afterwards, it was really nice because we were able to go and chill for a couple of hours, weren't we? And then, it was
the only problem we did have, Celyn, was that Andria's a Swansea fan and I'm a big Cardiff fan. So it sometimes got a bit heated.
Yes.
So Pembrokeshire Murders, a gripping drama, brilliantly played by you both. Was there any hesitation from either of you going into this subject matter, playing sort of real, true-to-life characters? How is that sort of the initial sort of concept of sort of joining a story like this? How was it for you, Alexandria?
Yeah, I think I was terrified all the way through. I was really terrified all the way through. I think it was so, because I vaguely remember this being in the news and on TV and so on. And I also read the book and just found it fascinating that this happened in Wales and terrifying at the same time. And yeah, I think we were all so focused on the fact that these families experienced this, were still experiencing this, and how that was going to affect them, and whether we'd do it justice, whether we'd give it the respect and sensitivity that it deserved. And
I mean, it was bizarrely successful in terms of figures. I know ITV were very pleased, and I was trying to work out why it was, so kind of impactful. And I think it was because there was no showboating in that series whatsoever on any level. And that includes lighting. You could be over dramatic with your lighting, you could dress people incorrectly. Every single aspect of it was about, as you said, it was about forensically analysing a case. It's the first time I've done it, actually, researched a role to that degree, you know, so much so that I went up to and walked his territory, you know, at dusk, all the fields, because I knew where they were, and I'd seen the documentaries, etc. And to get a sense of his wireism and his kind of, you know, the man who's in the center of his own universe, I used to take my daughter to boxing, and she was there for an hour, so I had an hour off. So I used to drive. It's a terrible thing to say, but it's true. I would drive to one of those estates that has been plonked in the middle of the countryside, you know, and they're like a ribbon development. They've got a road that goes round in a circle with cul-de-sacs off them. And I would just go and park up and turn the lights off and see if I could see in people's windows and watch. And it was actually quite horrible. It was really not a very nice thing to do, you know, but you got a real sense of how that would appease him and the power that he generated from doing that. You know, it's horrible.
I love doing gangs. It was a great. It was my second outing with Gareth, and he has a particular way of working. You know, with any kind of action sequence. You know, he does it all in sort of short segments, and he has his computer on set and he edits on set.
Playing characters are very interesting characters who carry a violence within them, and it's not necessarily just beating people up all the time, but just these characters that have palpable violence in them. I just wanted to inquire that sort of, is that easy for you to as an actor to access, or is it something that gets more and more challenging as you go on?
Well, I find it. I suppose I find it. I find it quite accessible. I think. I wouldn't say easy is the word, but I find it accessible. You know, in Apostle with Gareth, he was a psychopath. You know, so there was sort of no redeeming features really. But with Kinney, I always felt really at the heart of their story was this tender relationship between father and son. So you know that's really the heart of it. You know, the violence really is kind of on top of that. You know. And so really, if you play, you know, the violence will be filmed in a kind of choreographed, technical way, you know. And as long as you understand that this man is capable of extreme violence, but at the heart of it, the reason why he goes to the length he goes to is because of the love of his son, you know. So you got those two things, you know, coexisting.
You scared the living daylights out of me with the same word, but also moved me to tears as well. I don't think I ever want to see anybody put shoes on like that again. But it's an extraordinary film and an extraordinary performance. I mean, just take us, how did you know, what was the gateway? Obviously, Rose's directorial debut.
Yeah.
Someone says you're going to play a sort of pious nurse who sort of, you know, is going to, you know, essentially flagellate herself to death practically, you know, to save the life of somebody. Where do you start with that? What's the first conversation? Was it an audition, or was it a meeting, or how did it work?
Yeah, well, I got the script like a few weeks before I had an audition, and there was so much of the work was just done by reading it, because Rose had written something that was already kind of so complete, and I didn't have an actual audition for it yet. So I remember just being like, oh no, I can't have read this and then not end up having an audition. And then I had an audition with Carmel Cochran, who's the casting director, but Rose wasn't there, and it wasn't until my third round that I met Rose. And by this point, she had become like so fascinating to me in my head. I was like, who is this person who has written this? And we just kind of clicked straight away. And I think I find the person who's like been an outcast and has then kind of through that become incredibly superior really like fascinating. And I think I can like have elements of that with myself, being like, oh well, that didn't go well, it's because like, I don't know, just being an odd person at school. And so I really loved like the fragility of Maud with her like intense arrogance, that she could like save someone's soul. And I think that's what really excited me about it. But also I felt like even though you're following someone on their own for lots of the film, it really, reading it just made me feel like, gosh, we just need society so much to like look after each other, because Maud has taken herself out of that. And so it kind of made me fall in love with people while watching somebody who needed love. You know what I mean?